The Nigerian army has a fresh mandate in the renewed battle against Boko Haram.
Yeah, the mandate is to capture Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau either dead or alive. Now, this is sequel to a 40-day ultimatum given to the theater commander of the Operation Lafia Dole in the northeast by the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, to smoke out Shekau wherever he is hiding.
Now, this order was given on the 21st of July, and by our count, the 40-day ultimatum will expire on the 30th of August.
The deadline for the capture of Shekau, either dead or alive, will be accomplished. And beyond that also, the clearance operations of the remnants of these criminals that go by the appellations of Boko Haram terrorists will be decisively dealt with to a logical conclusion.
All right. Of course, we'll be joined very shortly by our guests who will be discussing this particular ultimatum given to the Nigerian military to capture Shekau, dead or alive.
Now, the point there is, we've talked about this issue many times before.
Yes.
Abubakar Shekau, the Shekau name now, in some quarters, is it the name of one man or is it a title?
Or is it even the name of an ideology?
As for an ideology. So these are some of the issues, because the military has come to say that, well, we have killed Shekau, we've heard that before, and then Shekau surfaces in another video. And then there are analysis as to he has a bulge on his head, and this one doesn't have the bulge, you know, he was shot, and then there were pictures of a dead Shekau, and then there's another video of a living Shekau, and all of that. So all of this in the mix.
It's so complicated. You know, when you now hear the Chief of Army Staff saying we need this man dead or alive, in other words, Tukur Buratai is telling us there is a huge possibility that Shekau is still very much alive. Yeah. And so all of the claims that he had been taken out in the past don't hold much water. Well, I wonder how much difference this particular order will make. We have our guest right here in the studio. Good morning and thanks for joining us. But before we come to you and introduce you very nicely to our viewers, let's give you some background. Now, the Nigerian Army has declared Abubakar dead on several occasions, but like you heard earlier, but somehow he always resurfaces in new videos.
Now, the factional leader of Boko Haram, Shekau, has escaped many attempts to capture or kill him. Why has he remained elusive? It's a big question that everyone is asking. Now, Shekau was declared a terrorist by the United States in 2012, and a $7 million bounty was placed on his head a year later.
Shekau is also on the list of the 71 most wanted terrorists in the world. Shekau was first reported dead in 2009 in a clash between government forces and the insurgents. It was believed that the principal officers of Boko Haram, including Shekau, were dead, but he appeared in a video a year later claiming he escaped the clash with only a thigh wound.
Now, Shekau was reported dead again in 2011 in the shootout in Kano State. In 2013, an intelligence report by the military claimed that Shekau died from wounds he suffered in a raid by soldiers on a base in Sambisa Forest in June.
In September 2014, it was again reported that a Boko Haram commander named Bashir Mohammed, who also doubled as Shekau, died in a clash that resulted from the group's attempt to overrun the town of Konduga in Borno State. In 2016, it was reported that Shekau was fatally wounded during an air raid. All right, that's a background to our story this morning. We have in the studio Malam Abubakar Ibrahim. He is the Executive Secretary, Save Nigeria Humanity Advocacy Center. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Save Humanity Advocacy Center.
Yes, Save Humanity Advocacy Center. That's right. Now, so what difference really do you think this marching order to the theater commander Operation Lafia Dole will make in capturing this Shekau, dead or alive?
What difference it will make?
What difference would it make?
Yeah, you know, in the past, like you rightly said, there have been series of times they say Shekau has been captured, and all this happened in the previous administration until 2015 when they said he was fatally wounded. So all this happened because of the insincerity of the past administration. There's been so much deceit, and all those stories were actually brought out to be able to cover the arms scandal that came up, because lots of money was appropriated for this. And I want to believe what they did was for them to define a narrative to the people that, okay, we're actually working. So right now, the leadership of the Nigerian army under Buratai, the same way a lot of people believe that Shekau will not, Sambisa Forest would not be captured, but he did that. And they even held their sports festival there.
Well, there's so much conflicting reports as to Sambisa Forest. I understand it's a very large forest, cutting across different states, and the operation of Boko Haram is still said to be in part of Sambisa Forest. In fact, there are some reports that said that the military cannot totally capture Sambisa Forest as it were. But let us even put it straight. Is it really possible? We know everything is possible, but within the context of the operation of the military and the terrain we find ourselves and the integrity and credibility of reports from the military all the while, is it really possible to capture Shekau within 40 days?
Yeah, like I earlier said, the way a lot of people felt Sambisa will not be captured, it's possible. Why is it possible? What was happening in the past that was halting all these operations? The morale of the soldiers were low, the allowances weren't paid, but all those has changed now. Because if you are going to the battlefront, if you are not in the right frame of mind, it's actually a hazard to your job. But if you know that, okay, even I've actually signed before I go into this job, that I can lose my life anytime, but what will be the fate of my family at the end of the day? All these were in place in the past. But right now, the soldiers, they are in the high spirit, and when the leader of the Nigerian army, he's always there with them. I think it's enough boost to make you carry out your job accordingly. And
well, some experts like yourself, would say that an ultimatum like this only ends up putting unnecessary pressure on the soldiers at the battlefront, and this might be in itself counterproductive. Don't you think so? Wouldn't it take more than an ultimatum to actually get the job done, especially in capturing Shekau, dead or alive?
Yes, well, it's an opinion. If you recall, when in 2015, when power changed hands, there've always been ultimatum for them. You have to get the zone, and as of then, we realized that Borno State, Yobe State, and Adamawa State were annexes of Boko Haram at the time. But today, it's not the same. Families have been lost, but when these ultimatums were given, even if, okay, you can't do this in 1 week, but it pushes you, because the military is not actually a comfort zone for anyone when you're in the army. So that has always been a driving force. This happens in any field of study, any job that you can be given ultimatum. I think it will only drive them to get the job done.
Yeah, but talking about this ultimatum, putting this ultimatum out there in the eyes of the public, where the public is beginning to count down on the 40 days. What happens if at the end of 40 days, Shekau is not captured, dead or alive?
The public, they have right to any information, first of all, and the public will always ask questions. So this has been given to them. I think what the public needs to do is for them to pray for the military, and with the equipment that they've procured in the past 2 years, I want to strongly believe that they'll put in their best. With
let's create a scenario. Yeah. Let's create a scenario.
Okay.
Sorry, let's create a scenario.
Yeah.
40 days elapses, and Shekau is not dead. Shekau is not in the custody of the military. Paint me a picture.
Don't you think
no, forget about...
Don't you think that then will put a big question mark on the integrity
or the military.
or believability of
This
the,
is not
the
about
military.
hope or faith or prayer yet. Keep that aside. Let us look at the practical things, because the military is not looking to the prayers of Nigerians necessarily. They are going there to the war front to fight.
Yeah. Before he gave the 40 days ultimatum, they've put every mechanism in place for them to make sure that they can achieve this. Let's leave whether they're able to achieve that or not at that time. When the time comes there, we'll be able to tell.
But wouldn't that be counterproductive to the issue of planning? Because that's where we get it wrong sometimes, if we don't plan ahead as to what happens if this doesn't happen or if that doesn't happen.
No, I want to disagree if you say it's counterproductive in this case. Now, what the public has heard is about the 40 days ultimatum. But before they got to that point, they must have gone through their internal processes before they say, okay, we must achieve this at this time. But the concern that people should be looking at now, it's what the general public is doing to help this. In Maiduguri, you can hardly tell which family that you don't have a Boko Haram member. Yes.
A Boko Haram member or a Boko Haram victim?
No, member, not victim.
In Borno
In
State?
Yes, in
Borno
Borno
State.
State, yeah, presently.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is...
That's a big one.
Yes, it is.
So Boko Haram members are in almost every
They are
family.
infiltrated in almost every family. In your family, you can't even tell who is a
Who
Boko
is?
Haram member.
Doesn't that further really complicate the issue, especially when you hear the Chief of Army Staff saying that, the public should volunteer information that will lead to their, capture of these elements?
Yeah, the public, you still have people that are not Boko Haram members at the same time. That's where this is going. That's where the angle is coming from, the help, because it's a complex situation in Borno. When Borno recently, for some research, and a resident that was taking us around the LJs, he told us that, no, look, even in his own family, that this is the situation. And the moment, sometimes they come out to give information, so it's a very complex situation, And I think the civilian JTF on their own end, they are also helping. Because the civilian JTF, some of them were members of Boko Haram, that their families were killed before they later came out and volunteered and said, no, enough of this. If I can be part of this and I'll also be a victim, so what's the need for this? So the few good people we have in the society will still have to try their best to always give information to the military in one way or the other to aid this.
Yeah. Now you've painted a picture for us as to many families, or most families in Borno State has at least one member, as the case may be. If that is the situation, how difficult or how challenging would it be for the military to wipe out the issue of Boko Haram and terrorism in the northeast?
Yeah, for you to security situation all over the world basically deals with intelligence, and it's man to man giving information. It's not like it's not rocket science where you have to say, okay, I need to deploy this. You understand? And in civilized societies, if you see your neighbor, somebody's getting into your neighbor's facility, the next thing you do is for you to call the police. That's our major challenge, and it's not only for this Boko Haram insurgency, it's a national issue that we face here. When this Boko Haram started, as far back as, even before before they were at their peak between 2010 to 2014, a lot of people were looking at Boko Haram as if it was a northern affair. It was a northern affair. Then the next thing, we had bomb blast in Abuja. The next thing, we are hearing that they were moving over to the
even in
southeast.
Kogi State.
Yes. Then the respective governors of this state, they have a major role to play because they are the chief security officers of the state, and they must support the militaries in this region for them to achieve this. So if
Do you think they're doing enough of that, talking about the state governments actually stepping in to provide support in the war against Boko Haram? Do you think the state governors are doing enough?
Well, the state governors will always say they are that they are trying their best, but we urge them to do more.
Okay, now coming back to the issue of capture him dead or alive, talking about Shekau, some people believe that capturing or eliminating Abubakar Shekau will be the turning point in the war against Boko Haram. But you and I know that the Boko Haram issue is more of an ideological one. Like, you know, taking him out, will it really be a big blow to Boko Haram? Imagine if we're able to achieve that.
Yeah, you know, this Boko Haram ideology that you're talking about, first of all, they came in and said, okay, this is our issue was just for Western education. They were against Western education. And it didn't sell. Because a lot of people say, okay, you are talking of Western education. How do you broadcast all this in media? Was it done? How did you get to that level of civilization?
Your
you
weapons
understand?
are products of Western education.
Videos, the cameras,
you understand?
phones,
so you
the
got
guns.
that, and you before you know what's happening, they're tilted towards religious, you know. But Boko Haram is not a religious group. Boko Haram is a terrorist organization. They've attacked Christians and Muslims. So then where are you coming from? And when they were attacking churches, they realized, okay, some Christian leaders at some group, they came up and said, okay, we cannot continue asking our members to retaliate, that these people are not Muslims. They now went and said, okay, maybe when we start attacking mosques at this point, there might be a reprisal attack. They started doing that so that they'll turn Muslims against Christians. And it didn't work. So right now, what Boko Haram is doing, they are actually at this desperate period of trying to attack soft spots, unlike they used to do before. Because the major markets and the major roads instead have been connecting all the towns, they've been reopened for business. Yeah. Economic activities is picking up. You know, the presence of governance is returning to all these communities. So in a desperate attack to show that, okay, we've not been completely decimated.
That's irrelevant.
Yeah, so they just have to, you know, keep trying to say, okay, once in a while you just, unlike before, every day we hear that a bomb has gone off.
All right, quickly before we let you go now, Shekau is just one man who has been running things. We've talked about the issue of those funding, where they get funding from. They've affiliated themselves to ISIS and to other terrorist networks around. Even if Shekau is taken out successfully, wouldn't all this network still be there?
Yeah. I recall when President Muhammad Buhari came on board, the first thing he did was for him to visit our neighboring countries where we believe that these guys were infiltrating this. Then they now set up the joint task force to make sure that, okay, nothing comes in, nothing goes out. And we agree that that has created a lot of balance in that society. Okay. So the issue of taking out Shekau is not just an issue of taking out Shekau. Thousands of Boko Haram members have been killed. And you know that when you see people coming to say, okay, I'm giving up, I'm surrendering, you understand, they want amnesty at this point. It's because what the government and the army under Brotai has done was, okay, they were able to identify all these channels where if food comes in, arms comes in. So after isolating them, you go hungry. So when you are hungry, you don't have arms. So what are you going to do? There will not be. So Shekau is just one aspect. So thousands of them have been killed. Even on Sunday, yesterday, some Boko Haram members were still killed. Yeah. And we should also look at the Chibok girls, the number of Chibok girls that have been released. Yes. And the only reason why we still have Boko Haram till this time was because the previous administration did not show any form of commitment to this. They didn't show any form of commitment, and it was more like it was a deliberate attempt to allow them.
But then again, Boko Haram is factionalized. There are two factions, and you wonder how, if indeed Shekau is, you know...
We even hear there are more than two factions now. Even more than two,
as a matter of fact. Well, we'll have to leave it there. Malam Abubakar Ibrahim, thank you so much for your insight and your time on the show this morning.
Thank you very much for coming. Bye.